There's a guy who works at Google. His name's Brandon S. He's not going to tell you his last name. Why? Because he lives in a van down by the river in Mountain View, California, because he's a Google employee and he's living in a van. We have some photos of said van. It's a truck. I don't know what this is. There's no mom's attic, I'll tell you that. This is just a truck, a U-Haul type thing that he lives in. That's the outside of it. Here's the inside of it. He's got a bed, purportedly some kind of IKEA furnishings, and a light. That's where he lives. His name is Brandon. He says, why is he doing this? He explains himself. I realized I was paying an exorbitant amount of money for the apartment I was staying in, and I was almost never home. It's really hard to justify throwing that kind of money away. You're essentially burning it. You're not putting equity in anything, and you're not building it up for the future. And that was really hard for me to reconcile. Yeah, so Brandon, there's some more facts about him. He had student loans, $22,000 in student loans, which is like the smallest student loan balance I've ever heard in my life. Yeah. He is in 6 months, paid it down to $16,449. He said one time the police did bother him. He said there were 10 police that showed up and asked him, what's the situation? And he explained himself, showed him his badge. He then has not been, someone said it was a pretty sweet setup you got, and he has not since been bothered by the police. So what do we think? He uses the Google facilities to take showers and do all that stuff.
Okay, so I've been in a lot of Google facilities, and they're wonderful. So to give you a sense of context as to why he's doing this, free food, okay, so for those of you who haven't been to like the Silicon Valley, the Facebooks, the Googles, the Twitters, etc., they're like, no, really? Yeah,
and it's
amazing
great food. And it's great food.
And it's limitless. Okay?
Yes.
Now, the reason they do that, it's not just because out of the goodness of their heart, because they want you to stay in the office and keep working. So they make more money if you stay in the office and eat all that great food. You're happy because you got the good food and you're not paying anything for it. So everybody's a winner in that sense. Now, if you can afford it and you make as much money as Google does, right? And then they've got gyms, they've got showers, they've got there's one place where you can sleep overlooking, I believe, New York City, right? Like it's like a bed that's like designed for extra sleep or something. I don't know. I think Ariana Huffington's in
San Francisco. That office is in San Francisco. You can still see all the way to New York. New York, that's the tallest building.
Right. So if there's any place where you can live in a truck and then have everything else taken care of for you, it's if you work at Google. So he has the luxury of being able to do this. He's going to pay off his loans. He's worried about equity. On the other hand, I still vote no.
Yeah, I wouldn't do this at all.
Yeah, you know why? Here's my take on it. Curious on yours, but he's 23 years old. How are you going to get laid in that truck?
Not gonna.
Okay, dude, you're a 23-year-old working at Google. You should be hitting the bars like, not a big deal. Kind of work at Google. Yeah. But if you end that sentence with, let's go back to my truck where I might murder you, it's not going to work as well. Who's walking? Which sane woman is walking into that truck like, oh, this will work out fine? I'm in a truck in a parking lot with no windows.
Look at it. It's like got paint over graffiti on the side.
Why don't you ask her to carry your axe for you?
Is it cool?
Yeah.
I'm not going to kill you. Can you carry my axe back to my truck in the parking lot? I love you.
Can we spend the night at your place? We can drive my place to your place. I just don't want to sleep there.
So I think there's a lot of things this says, this story. First of all, think about what's happening here, right? So this guy works for one of the richest companies in the richest country the face of the earth have ever seen. And he has a good job, and it's more economical for him to sleep in a truck. So if that doesn't tell you about income disparity and not sharing the wealth and a rigged system and all that shit, this tells you right there. Now, it doesn't say that he couldn't afford it, a hotel or an apartment. But he said that it's all this money because it's so expensive to live in San Francisco, which is more expensive to live there than New York City, by the way.
Mm-hmm. It's impossible.
So that it's cheaper for him to live in his. So he's maybe just saving money, but still, he said it wasn't worth it because he's never there and all this money he's throwing out the window. And so there's that commentary on the way wealth is distributed, on property owners having all the power in cities and stuff like that.
Not to mention, it's more expensive to live in a van in San Francisco than it is to live in a van anywhere else. That's what they say.
That's what they say.
Yeah. Now, look, I hear you on that, Jimmy, and that's a good point, although he's got a great job and all that. But if you want to take it in a more serious direction, it shows you how much student debt is an albatross around people's neck. I mean, this guy's got a good job, and he only has $22,000. That's true. For a lot of people, that's really small amount of student debt. Some people come out of college with over $200,000 in student debt. We're all going to be living in trucks soon.
I have friends, 2 doctors. They've been out of medical school for 8 years, and they are looking forward to the day when they're worth nothing.
Oh.
They're going to have broke day when they're just broke. They don't owe. And they're still working. And then Obama's too. They were like, we were owed student debt forever. It's difficult. It's so hard.
It's a crazy system that we put this crushing debt on people who want to get smarter, want to help our economy. We all know education helps economies, and then we put such an impediment to people getting it. And it's all because Wall Street owns the economy and they can make money off of selling debt.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so now some of the Democrats, not just Bernie Sanders, but also Hillary Clinton, saying, no, college should be free, and so we can give people real opportunity. Look, I'm super biased because my dad got a free education, and then we stopped being olive farmers, and we wound up coming to America and pretty much living the dream, right? So I know from personal experience, free education makes all the difference. Instead, what do we have? We got people who've chosen to enslave themselves by living in a truck outside in a parking lot because they're weighed down by debt, and he's in one of the better situations.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's right. I try to tell, when I tell people this on stage in comedy clubs, it blows their mind, about how we have to remind people that we are the richest country in the world. We can afford to pay for everybody's college without blinking. It wouldn't hurt. It would help the economy. They do it in Germany. When I tell them that, realize that Germany has the strongest economy, yet they pay for everybody's health care. Right? They have very strong unions, and they pay for everybody's college. Yet they work less hours than French. Yet they
Which
still
is
have this,
nearly impossible to do.
Right, and they have the strongest economy in Europe, and people are like, well, maybe there is enough to go around, and maybe there actually is a handful of greedy motherfuckers in America extracting wealth. There was another guy on MSNBC a few years ago who told us all about this. His name was Dylan Ratigan, and he said that what has been happening over the last 2 decades is a system that has been set up in America to extract wealth from it, not to build it up, not to make the economy better, not to strengthen our middle class, but to extract wealth. And that's what's happening right now. And as soon as he laid that out in front of a panel on a mainstream news show, they got rid of his ass. So that is what's happening. We have a system right now that extracts wealth from our economy. It doesn't help it. It doesn't build it up. It doesn't go for paying for infrastructure. It doesn't. We've got more money than we know what to do with in America. And what do we do with it? We give it to 5 motherfuckers and we send the rest of it in bombs over to the Middle East. We've got more money than we know what to do with.